one of the things that I think we can all agree on is one of the best qualities about Type Moon and also Fate is the music. And so, being such a big fan that I am, I have collected a lot of Fate soundtracks over the years, and I wanted to do this video as sort of a tie-in to the Type Moon retrospective series and kind of show off some of the merchandise that I have collected over the years. And I want to do this also for the art books as well, because there's quite a lot of Fate art books, and I'm mainly sticking with official stuff and not, you know, doujins and fan comics and things like that, because those have started to become a lot more popular ever since Grand Order kind of took off. But even just official art books and official merch, there's a ton of stuff out there. So I wanted to show off these soundtracks, and a lot of them I bought just because I liked the music, but a good chunk of these I actually won on an eBay auction where someone was selling off a ton of them as well. So I got the vast majority of these in one sitting, in one purchase, without even meaning to. And then because I had, you know, a big collection from that one purchase right off the get-go, I figured, okay, well, it wouldn't be much trouble to just buy the single album for the next OP that comes out, or, you know, the next game comes out, buy the next soundtrack, whatever. So that's kind of just what I did over the years. And now I've got quite an impressive collection of music here to show off. So I'll kind of talk about what I mean, it's one thing just to kind of show the album on screen, but I also want to talk about the art and, you know, what that track is from, and also what I think about that music is more so the purpose of this, not just be like, hey, look, this is this album and this is this album. It's kind of a little bit more of an in-depth explanation there. So most of these are going to be in release order or chronological order, with a few exceptions, and that's going to be, you know, based around my purchase history with them. So the first thing we have here that usually sits at the bottom of the stack is these are character songs that were made and released for the Deen anime. And if you guys don't remember, back in the day, early 2000s anime had a lot of these. And so I'm pretty sure I have all the ones that exist. Again, I didn't actually go seeking these out, but they just kind of, they were part of that collection I bought. So I've got one for pretty much every character. If there are more of these that you guys know of, let me know. And they're all still sealed. And I haven't actually listened to any of these, and I don't really intend on breaking the seal on them. I may have to move the camera because there's a light shining in right here, and it wasn't doing that earlier. So, but yeah, these are super cool, and I like the Deen artwork there, and I definitely intend on keeping these sealed. But if you guys know what these sound like or what these are, you know, definitely let me know. I think they're really cool, but they're kind of just a collectible that I intend to just kind of keep sealed. And, you know, maybe they'll be worth something one day, maybe not. I don't think character songs are particularly worth anything, but you never know. Okay, there we go. I moved the camera so that light shining in from the window wouldn't get away. It wasn't like that when I set up the camera, but such is life. So next we have here is the single track for the original OP of the visual novel, This Illusion. And so this is the original visual novel version of this, the very first printing of it. So I think this one's pretty nice. I don't think it's aged super well, and it's not my favorite version of it, but it's always interesting to hear in all the remixes what they decide to keep and what they decide to edit out in different versions of this song. And of course, it's a classic, so definitely appreciate having that. I find it interesting that there's no artwork on the back here, that it just shows the disc through the jewel case like that, so that's a little bit interesting. And then in the same vein is actually the next one, which is almost an identical packaging, which is the single for Fate Hallowed Araxia. So I guess the artist is Number 201 and Rue, and they are fantastic. So the opening for Hallowed Araxia I actually really love, and I think it's very spooky and moody, and there's something about the pitch and tone of her voice as well that really kind of accentuates that. So that's one of my favorite OPs, and it kind of puts me in a very certain specific moody, melancholic mood. So I really like it for that reason, and I feel like that moody atmosphere is very emblematic of Hallowed Araxia, at least from a marketing standpoint. You know, when you get into Hallowed Araxia, it's deceptively whimsical. But needless to say, this is a fantastic song if you haven't listened to that. Next one is one of my absolute favorites. So this is the complete soundtrack for the Rialto Nua version of the visual novel. And so this has most of the iconic tracks that you'll hear remixed in things like Unlimited Codes and the modern versions of the visual novel. And I think that this, even without the context of the visual novel, this is an objectively good set. I really, really love a majority of the tracks on here. And most of these tracks, like I said, were remixed in the Fate Limited Code soundtrack. And which I want to try to find a standalone CD album for the Fate Limited Code soundtrack, but I'm not sure that it exists. If you guys know if it's out there somewhere, definitely let me know. But yeah, this one I've listened to quite a lot while driving and stuff like that. I typically only listen to these in the car. But yeah, this one is by far one of my favorites. It's fantastic. I couldn't recommend it enough. And then we have the complete soundtrack for Hollywood Araxia, which this one still has the plastic around it. This is an interesting thing about how CDs are sold in Japan. Japan places a lot more cultural appreciation for physical media over there than they otherwise would have to, considering that, you know, a lot of times physical media has become obsolete and they don't really do CDs over here in the West anymore. Even stores like Walmart have pretty much gotten rid of them. But as you can see, they still release like small variant albums and single track albums over there in Japan. Like, they're very much more passionate about their physical media and the art that goes into it and just the appreciation of it. And I really appreciate that as well. Not from a materialistic standpoint, but more so from, like I said, an appreciation of art. And so the Hollywood Araxia soundtrack, pretty much the same thing I'll say about the visual novel soundtrack. Like I said, it's when you go to buy a CD in Japan, they come pre-wrapped in this plastic. A lot of times people throw that away. It's got stickers on it. It's got, information about the publisher on it a lot of times, but a lot of people just throw that away. If it's practical for me to keep it on there, I'll keep it on there. Because usually you can just put it back in there and close it back up and it reseals just fine. But certain albums I kept it, and certain ones I threw it out. And also keep in mind that, again, some of these are secondhand from the previous owner, so they already were missing their slipcover as well. But yeah, the Hollow Araxia soundtrack is good. It has it's kind of dull and repetitive in places. It's not quite as good as the Rialto Nua soundtrack, but it's still pretty okay. And then we're on to another one of my favorites, which of course is the Dean soundtrack for the anime. So I actually had 2 copies of this. This is my first copy that I bought, just for myself, and then I got another copy as part of that collection I bought. And I actually gave that other copy away as a prize at our panel. I believe it was MomoCon 2018 that I gave that away. And so somebody at MomoCon 2018 was very lucky to get a copy of this. And it's Kenji Kawai. It's absolutely iconic. It's one of the best soundtracks in the franchise. And it really did kind of set the tone for the standard of quality that the Fate soundtracks would be known for. But it also, as I said in the Dean review, it emulates a lot of the same musical style as the Rialto Nua soundtrack in terms of the instruments used, the placement of certain tracks. Like, picking Kenji Kawai as the music director was clearly a good idea, because he knew what he was doing as far as trying to make a new soundtrack for an anime adaptation of Fate. I mean, he really was trying to make it sound like Fate already did sound at that time. So great pick there. Music albums in Japan also come with this cardboard end piece right here. Sometimes you'll see these flattened down and on the inside of the album as well. Again, I try to keep these. I don't know why. Most people, I think, throw them out. But inside, of course, it would be that plastic. You take the plastic off, you take that off, and there's your CD. This is something we just don't do over here in the West, but I try to keep them if I can. The copy of this that I gave away did not have this, so it's just the CD. And we get behind the disc and everything here, we have some artwork of where is it? It's somewhere on here. Maybe it's on the... There was something... Oh, I think that was the Rialto Nua soundtrack where we had the CGI dragons. I was thinking of that one. That light's starting to creep back over on this side, too. I gotta be careful. Next, we have the soundtrack for Unlimited Blade Works, the movie, which, again, I think is excellent. I talked about in part 1, which I recently uploaded, how I absolutely love the soundtrack for the movie. It's Kenji Kawai just ratcheting up the intensity on it being sort of an epic ballad score type of thing. And I love this artwork here, too. It's got Rin and Saber as well. And I think you can see on the inside here what the full artwork looks like there, what that full illustration looks like, and they're holding hands, and it's cute. And so that's that soundtrack. I think that there's a couple of tracks on here that are excellent that a lot of people don't even get a chance to appreciate, such as there's a very whimsical track that plays during one of the only comic relief shenanigan scenes in the movie, and it's a fantastic track, and I neglected to really listen to it the first couple times listening to that soundtrack, and now I never skip it. Okay, so this one is a remix album, but it's official. So this is Fate Another Score. This is the super remix tracks from the visual novel, and some people like this. It has, of course, a remix of like of Emiya and whatever the song is that we associate with Excalibur. I can't remember the name of it. It's just called Excalibur in here. Okay. Trial of the Kings. But honestly, I love the artwork on this because this is basically the artwork they go with this scene when they did the opening for Heaven's Feel on the Vita version of the visual novel is very similar to this scene right here, which I think is really cool. But other than that, I'm actually not too big of a fan of this one. I probably owe it another listen very soon, but not one of my favorites. I actually don't really care for a lot of the remixes on this, which may surprise you, but yeah, not my favorite thing in the world. All right, next we have the single album track for the first Fate Zero ending credits song, and that is Memoria by Air Alloy. And I absolutely love this song. I actually had this song as my alarm to wake up in the morning back around 2011, 2012 when the series first came out, and that ended up being a big mistake because a lot of times I would wake up with it stuck in my head, and it would be stuck in my head until later in the day when I heard some other song, and whatever the situation was. And even to this day, sometimes other alarms, whether they're just generic alarm sounds that happen on my phone or whatever, will put this song in my head. And so it's really strange. This might go on record as the song that has been stuck in my head the most amount of times of any song I've ever heard in my life. So it's really strange. I actually got to hear the song performed live at AWA. I think it was 2016 or 2017. I'm not quite sure what year it was, but no, it was 2015 or 2016. Air Alloy performed there, and she did the song live, and I was definitely, that was a very impactful, emotional moment there. And this song is excellent. But this album also has a couple of other really great songs on it. Back to Zero and White World are also very good. So if you guys definitely like that song, definitely pick up this album. This plastic slipcover, I think, has seen better days. It actually has a tear in it. It might be time for me to throw that out. But I like the sort of vertical orientation of the artwork here. And of course, it still has the little cardboard thing there. So great song. Definitely like that a lot. And then, of course, that wouldn't be complete without Signed by Lisa, which is the OP for Fate Zero. Don't like this one quite as much as the ending. I thought that was had a lot more impact on me. And I want to kind of take this out so we can see the actual CD cover there, because I think it's a little bit, yeah, it's different. And so this is, I guess, what the generic album artwork would look like, which is not terribly impressive. As you can see, it's very generic. Of course, there she is, but this is a variant artwork cover for the Fate Zero opening, which that's the common thing that they do in Japan a lot, is you have the artist's actual album, and then you have variant releases of the album or single track versions of the album for the anime tie-in that they're based around. Interestingly enough, we have another single album track here for Memoria, and this one is it's for an orchestral version. So this is another single album track for Air Alloy, but it's a different concert, I guess, and it has some tracks on there. I actually need to re-listen to this because I don't really remember any of the other tracks on there except for that orchestral version of Memoria. So I probably owe it to her to re-listen to this again and give the rest of the artist's music some appreciation there. So a really cool artwork on this one. Of course, it's not a full jewel case. It's just one of those simple open and close, like clamshell types. So definitely keeping this one in the plastic was a good idea. But yeah, I love the Fate Zero artwork on that, and it's a nice little tie-in. Goes well with the other ones I just showed off, so Okay, here's another one of my absolute favorites. So this one is To the Beginning by Calafina, which, as you guys know, is the Fate Zero Season 2 OP, which is one of my favorite OPs ever in any anime, probably. And Calafina is just such an unbelievably amazing group with unbelievably amazing sound. I've heard that they've recently disbanded, though, which I was planning to talk about in the Heaven's Feel videos, because they do contribute some music in cooperation with Yuki Kaijura, because I'm not really sure what the business relationship is there, but they sort of work in tandem with each other. And of course, the Heaven's Feel soundtrack exists, and it's excellent for all three movies. So, but the fact that they disbanded was really discouraging, because it was like, oh no, are we going to lose out on a great soundtrack for Heaven's Feel Part 2 and 3? But it worked out. But yeah, To the Beginning, absolutely one of my favorite tracks ever. So this is the single album of that, even though it does, so it only has like the 3 tracks, which actually the second track on there is the other tie-in track for Fate Zero, which is Matan, I think is the name of it. And that's also like one of my favorite songs of all time, even though it only appears in like one episode, I think. And there's nothing Fate Zero about that track. Like, they don't have any variant Fate Zero artwork on that. So here is Haruna Luna. I'm not really sure what the name of this album is, unless this was her debut album. It may have been. But this was the Fate Zero ending track, which of course is very beautiful and kind of sad. So if you guys appreciate that, this is an excellent album as well. I actually haven't listened to this full thing either. I probably need to do that, because again, another fantastic artist, so I definitely owe it to them to listen to that entire track. So next we have another one that I really appreciate, and this one actually has 3 variants to it. So this is Arcadia by Earthmind, and this is the opening to the PS Vita version of the visual novel, the 2012 version of the visual novel, depending on how you want to look at it. And there were 3 separate releases of this, with variant artwork for each of the 3 routes. So this, of course, is the Fate route version. There's a Limited Blade Works version and a Heaven's Feel version. And I think this one was the most plentiful, which is why I went with it. But yeah, this one has a CD and a DVD. There's the artwork again. And I think we get to see... Okay, now we don't get to see the artwork inside this little booklet here, but this soundtrack is fantastic, because, as you guys know from the PS Vita version of the visual novel, the 2012 version, as I've talked about, there are 3 tracks on here that are for the various openings of the visual novel. So each opening, similar to how the previous version of Rialto Nua had a slightly different opening for each route, but with the same song, this one is 3 different songs. The differences between the Fate version and the Limited Blade Works version are more subtle, but the Heaven's Feel version is just crazy. So I think it's called Another Heaven. So the first one is called Arcadia, the second one Horizon, and the third one Another Heaven. But there's also a track called Kaleidoscope on here, which is just absolutely beautiful, and I've actually used that in a couple of community videos about the cosplay community as well. So if you guys saw, again, I think it was that same panel, it was MomoCon 2018, I had a celebration video to sort of honor the Type Moon cosplay community from 2012 until 2018, and kind of showed off all some pictures of all of our panels and photo shoots and everything. And I used that Kaleidoscope track, and it was just absolutely beautiful. A lot of people really loved it a lot. So then, of course, we have Ideal White, and I think it's Ayano Mashiro is the name of the artist there. I'm not really used to pronouncing that, but again, this one had a standard version, and of course the Limited Blade Works, the series variant version as well. So this is the opening for season 1 of Limited Blade Works, and I almost missed out on this one. I had to kind of go back and order it. Saber's like, whoa, where am I going there? But yeah, this is a good album as well. Again, this is just the single track version that just has the track, the OP for the series, and the instrumental version and the short version, and like one other track from the artist on there, which sort of became the standard format for that. And so, of course, the next logical album after that, of course, is Brave Shine by, I think it's Eimer is how you pronounce that. That's how I'm going to pronounce it for this video. Again, I've still got the plastic on all these. So after this season 2 opening right here, Eimer would kind of become a staple for Fate openings. I think they did either one of the openings or one of the closings for Apocrypha. They did all three of the Heaven's Feel ones, as well as the Hallowed Araxia remaster ones we'll get to. This is a pretty good song. I love the Archer artwork on there. I actually missed out on the albums for... What is the name of that song? It's Calafina's song for Lone Bit Work Season 1 ending, and then Ring Your Bell is for Season 2. I missed out on both of those albums, so I don't have those quite yet, but I will eventually. And then, of course, next we have, by Eimer as well, is the Hallowed Araxia remaster, the PS Vita version opening. So this is Broken Night and Hollow World, which are both really excellent songs, and so... the opening for Hallowed Araxia on the Vita, if you haven't seen it, is beautiful, and so is this song. It definitely takes me back to 2016, and AWA 2016, I showed off that Hallowed Araxia opening at our panel there, and everybody seemed to really like it. So, of course, we get Karen updated in the youth-photable art style, which is really cool. So this is definitely an excellent album, and of course, this is the variant one that ties into the release of Hallowed Araxia. But again, great songs. Eimer becoming a staple of Fate at that point after Calafina disbanded. I have two separate stacks of albums here. We're on to the second stack, so we're more than halfway through, guys. So this one is by Elisa. This is the album Genetica, and this album has the OP for Fate Extella on it, called, of course, Extella, which instantly became one of my favorite OPs in all of Fate. Like, it's up there with To the Beginning. It is fantastic. I cannot even begin to tell you how many times I've listened to that. And so I had like a downloaded version like on my phone for a couple years listening to it, and then I finally picked up this standalone album version, and there's something about the CD quality, and I know some people are definitely audio snobs and connoisseurs when it comes to different audio quality and music and that kind of thing, and I'm not as knowledgeable as some people are when it comes to that stuff, but I can definitely tell the difference when I hear it. And so having the CD album version of this was a really good idea. I was very grateful that I bought it, because there were elements of the music that I definitely missed out on not having this CD album version, because there's like a string instrument that plays at the very, very beginning that I didn't even notice my first couple times listening to it on the downloaded version that I picked up on right away on the CD version. On that same train as well is the full soundtrack for Fate Extella. This is one of my favorite ones as well. Now, the interesting thing about this is, though, even though the game came out in Japan in late 2016 and in the US in early 2017, this soundtrack did not ship until January of 2018 is when this soundtrack finally came out. So, of course, it has unique artwork specifically for the soundtrack that's not seen anywhere else. It has a short version, of course, of the opening by Elisa, and it has the full uncut tracks from the game, which is incredible to me, because as we'll get to the Extella review later this year probably, but Extella has a fantastic soundtrack, worthy of Fate's pedigree, but specifically these uncut versions, you get to hear elements of the music that were previously missing from other cuts of the soundtrack, such as in the in Gilgamesh's theme, there's a little string part that plays at the very beginning, and you hear that part loop into the chorus, I guess you could say, later in the track here in the uncut version, which is totally missing from the game itself. So here we have Eimer's single track for Heaven's Feel Part 1. This artwork here on the album is very minimalistic. There's like no text on it at all. It's just her standing out in the middle of a field holding up a flag, evidently. And I actually don't remember what the name of this track is for Heaven's Feel Part 1. Maybe you guys will be able to tell me. But yeah, this is another fantastic song as well. Very long. It takes a long time to get through it, and in the end credits of the movie as well. Something like 6.5 minutes long, which is quite impressive, honestly. I didn't manage to get the tie-in version with Heaven's Feel Part 1 for that album, but I did manage to get it for Heaven's Feel Part 2. So this is the actual variant cover art that is meant for Heaven's Feel Part 2. This is I Beg You by Eimer, and of course you have the iconic imagery there of Sakura and her little dream fantasy when bad things are about to happen to people in that scene. So really grateful that I have that. The theme for Heaven's Feel Part 2, for Heaven's Feel Part 1, it's kind of melancholic and kind of sad, but also triumphant. It's setting up the themes of the trilogy. The theme for Part 2 is really ratcheting up the intensity and the drama and the suspense leading into Part 3. And so I thought the songs that they picked for the 3 movies were perfect. I do have the one for Part 3, and we'll get to that. I'll talk about what I feel about it when we get to it. This is the opening for Extra Last Encore. So this is Bright Burning Shout by TM Revolution. And boy, was I surprised when TM Revolution ended up doing the OP for a Fate series. I was like, oh man, this is like 2 of my favorite things, and you slap them together. And so, of course, I like Bright Burning Shout. It's not one of my favorite TM Revolution songs by a long shot, but I love this artwork here. It's got, of course, Nero and Hakuno here. And again, this is the single album version that just includes the opening and a couple other things. It's not a full album by TM Revolution or anything like that. Although I do have quite a bit of TM Revolution music from other anime that I'll talk about. But yeah, I actually don't own the Blu-rays yet for Extra Last Encore, so there's right now been no real ideas about what the Extra Last Encore review would look like, but I definitely need to have the actual Blu-rays to get the footage off of before I even think about it, so that's another idea for later down the road. So now we're getting into the last couple ones I have. So the one I'm about to show next is technically the most recent one in chronological release order, and the 3 after that are ones that I purchased very recently, almost in the same purchase. So if you guys have missed out on a lot of these OP tracks, these opening tracks, and these single album versions, but you still want to appreciate this music, there is one product that will allow you to do that, and that is this right here. Fate Song Material. This was released late last year, and I absolutely adore this thing. So just like with the art books, how they'll make compilations and they'll combine stuff together and make Fate art material, Fate side material, whatever, this is Fate Song Material. And so this, I think, is one of the best products for any collector that loves the music. So it has every OP from Zero, from Apocrypha, Extra Last Encore, Unlimited Blade Works, the series. It has the Heaven's Feel one by Aimer. It has the Hollow Ataraxia one by Aimer that I mentioned. It has Elisa, Extella. It's got all of those. Unfortunately, I don't feel like this is really a complete album of all of the Fate music, because if it was, it would include the number 201 songs, and it would include the songs for Dean as well, but it doesn't. It just includes Unlimited Blade Works, the series, Zero, Apocrypha, Last Encore, the visual. It includes Arcadia by Earthmind as well, so it includes most of them except for Dean and the non-remixes, like the original versions, the number 201 versions from the visual novel, Rialta Nua and Dean. So it's not completely complete. It basically is just, here's the modern stuff that we know you guys will appreciate. But I really do wish it had everything. But thankfully, my collection is so big, I have almost everything anyway. Interestingly enough, that soundtrack has a bomb-ass remix of the number 201 opening for the Rialta Nua version of the visual novel on the PS2. Like that opening, it has an amazing remix of that, which I thought was awesome. So I said I would do it, guys. I said I would order this and I would listen to it, and I plan to do it. I just haven't opened it yet. So this is the complete soundtrack for Unlimited Blade Works, the series. I said I would buy it in that review. I said I would listen to the full thing. This, of course, is the full standalone CD album version that has every single song from the anime, and I'm hoping that it's good. And even if I end up being like, you know what, my opinion is still not changed about it, and I think it's kind of lame. So for context, the Blu-rays, both the English and the Japanese Blu-rays for Zero, Unlimited Blade Works, the series, Apocrypha, and the Heaven's Feel movies all come with the soundtrack from the series, which is one of the best ways, in my opinion, of getting those soundtracks. But they did release the Zero soundtrack and the Unlimited Blade Works, the series soundtrack on standalone albums like this. And this was not nearly as expensive as I thought it was going to be. As you can see, it's still sealed. I haven't listened to it yet. But I plan to listen to it soon and kind of let you guys know what I actually think of this. And if there's any tracks on here that were in the anime but not on the Blu-ray CD that it came with. And see if there's like any hidden gems in here. But at the moment, I'm not expecting too much. I'm still expecting myself to be pretty indifferent to that soundtrack, but we'll see what happens. And so next, of course, we have... This one is still sealed as well. I haven't opened it at all. So this is... I don't know the name of the track. I guess it's Marie or something like that. But this is by Aimer, the single track song for Heaven's Feel Part 3. And so... we have this, beautiful illustration here of Sakura kind of walking out of the water, which I guess the analogy is, she was drowning in darkness and she's walking up towards all these beautiful cherry blossoms, and it's very emblematic of the themes of Heaven's Feel Part 3. So this song kind of starts out slow and builds up to this very triumphant, very calm, victorious theme, and I think it's very, very, very fitting for Part 3. So, again, I haven't even opened this yet, but I'm going to listen to it soon. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So, the whole trilogy is complete there, and hopefully the Blu-ray for Heaven's Feel Part 3 should be out next month, and then the trilogy will really be complete. On to the last one we have. So, this one I did open, and I have listened to it. But I didn't know this existed, guys. I didn't know this was even a thing for several years, and I didn't know until I was researching music for this past review, and that is this right here. This is the soundtrack reproduction for the Rialto Nua soundtrack, and so I mentioned earlier in the video when I showed off that soundtrack that the Rialto Nua soundtrack is one of my favorites. Well, this is the updated version for the Vita version, for the 2012 version. And I gotta say, I wasn't all that impressed with it. I love the artwork. The artwork is so cute, but I wasn't all that impressed with what they decided to do with it. I think that there's a lot of tracks that actually hold up better in the original version of this, but a lot of the action tracks are really awesome because there's a lot more instruments, a lot more, guitars and sort of more actiony rock beats going on there, which sound really good. The version of Emiya that's remixed in here is really good, but... what is the name of that track? It's Spring something. I think it's Blue Sky is the name of the track on here. It's a track that's very significant to me, and I'm going to be using it in a future video as a very significant moment. That has a remix in here that's okay. I like hearing any different remixes of that song, but it's not as good as not nearly as good as the original version, but there actually is two variant soundtracks on here. So the first disc is the actual soundtrack from the Vita version, and then the second disc is like other remixes of some of those same songs. So there's a lot of content here, and it's definitely worth checking out. In spite of the fact that I don't think it's as good as the original, I still highly, highly recommend that one. So that's it, guys. So that is my complete soundtrack collection for Fate, and there's not really many others that I'm looking for. The ones that I said I missed out on, the Calafina ones for Unlimited Blade Works of the series, those songs are on the complete song material, so I don't necessarily need those anymore. I kind of want the album track for Disillusion. I think it's Takanaka Saichi or something like that is her name. I kind of want that one. And that one's pretty easy to find, it seems like. And then I will probably get the standalone album version of the Zero soundtrack, just because I did it for Unlimited Blade Works as well. So, but yeah, if you guys really love the Fate music, tell me which one is your favorite in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time.